welcome back. It's RAP4, Omar Macy here. I want to talk to you about the DMAG. A couple things about it, how to disassemble it, what to expect from it, what it is, what it's not. I think it's a very good time to I mean, I've discussed this over and over, and this is, I think, just a more specific part about it. So the DMAG, again, it's a dual stack magazine. It is prepared for shape projectiles or paintball. Now, the way it's configured, it's a very soft spring, so it's configured for paintball. It's made to feed even the most brittle of paintball safely into the chamber. So for shape projectile, even though it can be used directly, we do have a spring that is designated for that. So you can do that. And those of you who have a 14 round and 20 rounds, what you can do, basically you can take the spring from your 20 round magazine and put it in your 14 round magazine, and that will give you really good results for shape projectiles, first strikes, and whatnot. Okay. Again, and this has been common. I mean, there's other companies out there that when you buy a First Strike magazine or their First Strike compatible magazines, they give you two types of springs. They give you a paintball spring and a First Strike spring. The whole reason is it's a shape projectile. It has a directional place where you want to keep it, and the stronger spring keeps it in that same direction. Alright, so looking at the DMAG, let me go ahead and move the gun aside here for a few moments. Right, so again, this is the DMAG. It's been very simple, just an outer shell, some components that make it feed. The way that this works is when this goes inside the magazine well, it releases a follower, same thing with the opposite side. Alright, because of this mechanism inside, this is a magazine that you pretty much have to give it a good jolt or smack it into the corresponding marker. Again, we've shown how you can change that, but of course that's how it's designed. So let's go ahead and take it apart. For whatever reason, I mean, well, I'll tell you something that we just did. We just took the most brittle paintball that we could, and it chambered just fine, it fires just fine, but during our loading, and we just smacked this really hard into our hand, and of course it broke a couple paintballs inside of it, so I have to take it apart and clean it. You may have to do this yourselves. You can just put it under water and rinse it, but these are not stainless steel springs. Again, the cost of the magazine does not allow for stainless steel springs, so you want to take them out, oil them, clean them, if you do have a paintball break inside of there. So I'm going to go ahead and take, this is a 1.5mm Allen key. It's not necessarily what you have to use, but this is what I'm using right now to take this apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, this might not even be the right tool to use. There we go. So I'm going to put it in on this side right here. Put it just on the ledge, okay? You want to make sure you're not overstretching this thing, or you could break it. So I'm just going to put it just on the ledge, just enough for me to pop it out. So there we go. I'm able to pop it out now. Okay. Take out both sides. Take out the bottom. Take out the springs. Take out my extrusion. So now we're left to all the components. We have our shell, we have our two followers. That's it. I mean, that's all we really have here. There's not much else going on. This is our whole magazine system. Be mindful of these two springs right here. Okay, but that's it. I mean, go ahead and clean everything, put it back together. Potential to break. Well, there are potential stuff to break. You could definitely break these tabs right here by taking them in and out over and over. Now, if you want to make a magazine that you can take apart just with your hands, just like by snapping it, there's a good trick. Shave this little locking mechanism to about half of what it is. Shave by either sanding it down or take a pair of nail clippers and cut it. Then you'll be able to just pop it out with your hands. But again, the problem with that is that if you toss it to somebody, or drop it on the ground and it happens to hit a rock or something just in the right place, it's going to pop it for you. So that's why we decided to make it a very strong clip versus something that you can just take out very easily by hand. But that's a choice that you have. You do have generally 10 magazines to work with in your 10 pack, and you can treat them, you can basically try the different scenarios out. In fact, most of the magazines that I use, I trim them so I can take them apart really easily. I do drop them. I just make sure I don't, like, you know, throw them at a rock like a pitcher or something, and you'll be fine. I mean, so it's really up to you how you want to use that. But again, these parts are available. They're really inexpensive. You can do it that way. So, alright, let me go ahead and put this back together, and I'll show you what the steps are. There are a couple areas which do require a couple steps to be taken. And number one, so I'm going to take one of my feed ramps. Okay, it's a mirrored part, so it doesn't matter which one you grab. But we are going to grab one of the paddles, which again, they're identical, so it doesn't matter which one, but it does matter which sequence you put it in. We're going to put it on, so this is facing me. I'm going to put it on the left side first, okay? It matters because this activator stop or bump will not allow you to do it otherwise. Alright, so now we take our facing me, I take the right one and put it in. Okay, I'll go ahead and grab the opposite side of the feed ramps, align it all together. There we go. At this point, I'm going to take my two return mechanism springs, just put them on the little spring guide that's on the shutter door paddle activator. Okay. Alright, then the only other part that is specific and you do need to be very mindful of is the extrusion. Okay, there's nothing telling you which side is up and which side is down. What you have to look for is that when you put it, there's a little notch that has a space for a spring. So look for it. You'll see the shape and you'll be able to detect it. It should be able to just drop in really freely. Okay, but make sure that the one that has a little crescent moon shape on it is where your spring is. So not like this, because it wouldn't be there correctly. And you can see how it kind of like, yeah, I mean but it kind of has a little bit more tension to it. So you don't want to do that. You want to do this. Okay. A safe bet to do is, I mean, if you want to, again, the cost of these would not allow it, but if you want to, you can take a little marker or something and mark which is up and which is down. Anybody has a lady in the house, some nail polish would probably work. I don't know. Okay, so that's it in that. We put that through. Let's make sure it's in the right location. We take our outer shell, close it all there. At this point we drop in our followers, 1 and 2. Make sure you don't drop them in the wrong direction. You want to make sure that the direction that is facing the bottom cap is where the spring goes into the follower, not when it presses against the follower, okay? Alright, so now we take this. Okay, finally you have your bottom cap. This is what your follower locks against, and also what your activator paddle doors, this is what they press against to release the follower. There's 4 holes, okay? Those 4 holes are for the spring, so you just want to make sure that when you're putting it this way, the spring is on the left side. The spring is always on the left side when you're facing it, okay? If the spring happens to be on the right side, you will see that the spring is kind of curled over to one side. That will damage that spring, so make sure that you align it correctly. And that's it. When you're facing, it should be on the left side. Alright. We put the cap on. You basically press it against the front first. Press it against one side. And at this point, just grab the second one. Grab it together. What I do, I just snap it shut. And that's it. That's your DMAG. That's how to basically check it. And I mean, put it back together, take it apart. And again, just be mindful of these little hooks right there. If you do break it, I think it's been shown online, somebody showed us that if you break one, it's no big deal. It'll still work. If you break 2, it'll still work, but then you have the potential of these things separating under impact. So you don't want to do that. These are very durable magazines. The type of material that they are, I mean, there's not much you can do to them because of the type of materials that are used. They have a lot of play, and they allow a lot of abuse. So far, even our earliest prototypes are still going strong, so there is no way to say how long these will last. I mean, if you treat them, I'm not going to say treat them correctly, but if you maintenance them at least to a minimum level, they should last for a very, very long time. But again, the point of these magazines is for you to treat them like a pod. So they're a cost point where you are able to give a magazine to a fellow team member who you may or may not know, and not worry about him walking off with your magazine. I mean, and if he does, it's technically not that big a deal. Not like the past when we have $30+ magazines that you might consider it, even for the sake of the game, you might consider giving it to somebody. So this is where the DMAG is for. It's meant to, it's treated like a pod. Also make you much quicker at your you know, changing a magazine. You don't have to worry about putting it in a dump pouch or anything. Just drop it, pick it up later, go on to your next mag. So it has a kind of a tactical advantage as well, by not worrying about it. Alright, once we put it back together, we can just go ahead and check it, make sure that everything is working correctly. At this point, you could possibly put a full stack of paintballs or rounds in there, check that it locks down. That's about it. Alright, again, when loading, you put your rounds, just give it a tap on the corner that you're sitting at, just something, I mean, something about that much. If you hear that, what that does is just readjust the column and the follower so it locks down in place. That's pretty much it on the DMAG. There's not much else to it. Alright, well, thank you very much. Have a good one.